Are two screens really better than one? This episode of Some Gadget Guy is brought to you by viewers like you. All the folks who share content on social media and the incredible generosity of my patrons. Patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. More on those awesome geeks later in the video. Yes! Two screens really are better than one. The folks at AceMagic sent this my way to take on a test drive and share some thoughts. This is the X1 dual display laptop. Quick tangent. I truly believe the absolute best accessory purchase that you can make is a portable monitor. They come in all different shapes and sizes. They can have batteries built in, or docks, or hubs, or other accessories built in, or you can just put a display on your face. Nothing helps expand the functionality of any computer, phone, tablet, or game console that you might own like adding a portable monitor. But if you primarily use a second screen with a laptop, AceMagic thinks they have the solution to cut out the middleman and get you into dual screen productivity even faster. You might have noticed that the X1 is a little different. You might have noticed the second screen that swivels out and it's propped to the side, or you can swing it all the way around to the back. It's two screens in one. There's only a 65-watt charger in the box, but it's a nicer presentation. Now, a quick hardware tour. The X1 feels a lot sturdier than the previous AX laptop that we reviewed from AceMagic. It's a simple laptop base, but more premium materials, less case flex when you pick it up. The left side has two USB-C ports, but the rear charges the X1 and the front is a data port with video out. Now, it's not USB 4 or Thunderbolt. The spec sheet reads 5 gigabit per second speeds, and this will make using some laptop hubs more difficult by dividing up power and data. The opposite side has a USB-A, USB 3 port, and a full-sized HDMI. And I love seeing that part of the case kind of scoop out to include the full-sized HDMI. Notably lacking no memory card or headphone jack, and I know they're less common these days, but I always like to see Ethernet. But overall, we've got a clean, professional look. The keys are raised with good key travel and a good feel under the fingers. Now, they're not as quiet as my new Surface laptop or my favorite keyboard, the Pixelbook Go, but I kind of liked the slightly raised key travel. It doesn't feel like a gaming keyboard. I don't know, when you have a more deliberate, maybe a clumsy typing style like mine, I kind of like that tiny extra bit of space as the key is depressed. It's a bit of a bummer that we don't have backlit keys though. As I mentioned, the construction is a bit more reassuring. There's a little flex directly under the keyboard tray, but the rest of the frame is reassuringly rigid. As you go to pick it up with two screens out, you don't want this thing flexing or bending. Now, the touchpad is an average Windows touchpad, supports actions and gestures. Again, it's kind of hard to judge as I've been totally spoiled by the haptic touchpad on my Surface 7. This was totally usable. It's good. It's fine. It's a fine trackpad. Moving on, the speakers here are better than the very low bar set by the AceMagic AX, but they're still probably going to fall behind premium phone speakers. So I'm not too disappointed in the missing headphone jack, as I'm pretty sure it would have been included for convenience. Likely would not have been a very good audio representation. I have a number of dongle DAC review videos if you would like some suggestions on really good premium portable audio. On the top of the keyboard, we have dedicated monitor selection buttons, more on that in just a second, and we get a fingerprint reader in the power button properly supporting Windows biometric security. A nice little touch from a manufacturer like this. Inside the machine, we have a 12th gen Core i7, the 1255U, a bit more focused on power efficiency and battery life than delivering the most brutally powerful CPU of its generation. Intel integrated graphics, and the configuration sent to me had 16 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. So of course I had to rip this thing open and take a peek inside. Really simple, 10 screws to crack it open. None are hiding under feet or adhesive, but there is a lot of tape on the speaker, so you have to be careful prying it open. It looks like it would be really easy to shred the speaker cables. And then we have immediate access to the battery, the wireless card, and the SSD. I didn't recognize the SSD brand, but performance has been good. The Wi-Fi card was made by the same company we found in the AOC AM16 mini PC that we just reviewed. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth performance has been solid around our small condo. And the battery is a little small, in my opinion, for a device where we would regularly be driving two displays, which might be a concern for people really trying to drive this thing out on the road. And unfortunately, the RAM is soldered directly into the motherboard. I was hoping it would be like the AX where I could upgrade that immediately. I had RAM ready to go. 12th gen Intel and 16 gigabytes of RAM. This is never going to be a competitive system for folks who are interested in doing a lot of on-device machine learning or LLM. If you're really into this next phase of AI, we don't quite have all those Copilot compatible bits in the X1. Now, putting everything back together, we should talk about software. And AceMagic seems to be doing better. It's been a wild ride from getting two systems which flagged for pre-installed malware. And then I reviewed the AOC system, which didn't show any malware in my scans, but did have that weird NDev program, and it was still doing that thing where it altered the Windows setup routine. Now the X1 seems to be the most normal of any AceMagic system I've reviewed yet. The full Windows setup process. I went through it page by page, and then I scanned on both Windows security and Malwarebytes and went looking specifically for folders and executables that were problematic in the past. Nothing. I came up with nothing. That's a very good sign. So for the really security conscious in my audience, I would still recommend setting up new laptops and PCs on a guest network instead of on your main home Wi-Fi. I have a review with my buddy Shannon Morse, she goes by Snubs, security specialist, talking about ways that you can better protect your network and your home data and your new computers. And then I also put out a recent review on a cute little Wi-Fi router that can maybe help you out if you're doing this kind of regular IT support for your family. But back to the X1, my review unit came up as clean as I could test, and I was really happy to see that. Because then it was just the normal Windows bloat and settings to deal with. And there's a refreshing lack of manufacturer value-added software pre-installed. Like controlling these displays. It's not a gimmicky software control panel. Thankfully, you don't have to go through the Windows settings 3 menus deep every time you want to change this over. I love controlling this in hardware. The screen above the keys is screen A, the screen you swivel out is screen B, and then you can extend or mirror both displays. Because the hook for this concept, it needs to be easy to operate. Because it's already asking for one small compromise. Every time you use it, every time you open it, you have to open it twice. And that makes it a little harder to use on an airplane. For example, going single screen, you need the clearance to wrap the screen all the way behind. You probably won't have that on an airplane tray table. But switching those modes is way easier when we have dedicated hardware controls. I'm a hardware nerd, and this is a hardware novelty, and it's functional, but not subtle. It has to be asymmetrical. The side hinge recalls Lenovo Yoga convertibles, and the hinge largely stays put. In my early use, feels stiff enough to keep two screens at the angle you'd want, just so long as you don't shake it around too much. It's not the best in your lap kind of device, but I was surprised on how well it handled a little bit of lap computing. It's just gonna feel better going single screen on your lap and then dual display when you can put it on a desk. That's one of the things that will always be a bit wonky with this. One screen always sticks out to the left, so you can only use that feature in areas where you have room to your left. Now, we've seen some other experiments, maybe a vertical mount, and that should feel more balanced, but I generally prefer screens side by side, not looking up and down. And I just don't think there's an easy way to engineer a side-by-side dual display and make it more balanced in front of the keyboard. If there's ever been a concept like that, please send me some links. I'd love to see it. The screens here are respectable LCDs, 1080p, 60 hertz, nothing crazy. They're not gonna be gamer grade. And they're good LCDs, but you can see a bit of uneven backlighting when dark info is on the display. See, this is a tricky quality conversation we don't often have in laptop reviews. For a lot of these manufacturers, the lower cost manufacturers, the displays they use are often the same or sometimes poorer quality than what we put in an inexpensive portable monitor. And that's how we keep some of the manufacturing costs in check. So these screens don't compete at all with my significantly more expensive Surface laptop. They're nowhere near the same tier of display performance, but they are nicer than many of the portable screens I've played with and reviewed, and in general, they definitely see a step up for this brand. Plus, there's 2 of them connected to this shell. Now, another way we can keep costs in check using an older generation of CPU. 12th gen Intel is a good pick for a product like this. Intel started playing with P cores and E cores. There are a large number of applications that can just coast on the little efficiency cores to help improve battery life. We didn't see significant changes to performance moving up to 13th gen core processors, so you save a little cash and you help Intel clear out some old inventory. It's a win-win. This is well understood territory for a mobile chip, and I'm not gonna do an hour-long dive through bar graphs here. It's a Core i7, but it's also a U series, which focuses a bit more on efficiency. This hardware config is still gonna be overkill powerful for most home computing needs. It's a tier above most student-grade solutions. It's plenty capable for document and office work, and it scores decently through tests like file compression, even up to a little 4K video editing. It's not the best at editing, and if you start using plugins or filters, it's downright painful, but like a little trimming or slapping a few clips together in DaVinci Resolve, totally doable. Here's where I'm gonna knock this just a bit. This configuration, 2 screens. We would expect multitasking to be front of mind for a potential consumer buying a laptop with hardware built in 2 screens. And 16 gigabytes of RAM is a bit lean these days, especially if browser-based work and web applications are what you do while you're multitasking. If there's anything I hope AceMagic can bring to this concept as it matures, it's an option for more RAM, or at least giving us upgradable RAM. Now, considering my concern about the smaller battery life has been okay. It's a little different to talk about doing something basic, streaming an hour of HD video at around 200 lux, which is just above 2/3 of the max screen brightness for these panels. The X1 drained 21% of its battery with both screens up and a browser on the second screen. Going down to a single screen to stream that video, the X1 drained only 16% of its battery. Very broadly, very generally, you'd be good for about a movie or 2 while you're doing something like working on a document. If you start cranking up that CPU, you're gonna drain that battery a lot faster. And it's always worth pointing out, we're talking Intel and we're talking 12th gen. Even with the improvements to efficiency cores, the fan noise is an almost constant presence. The X1 handles this well, but there's a spin up and scale down and spin up and scale down. You're kind of always riding a wave even while the laptop is sitting here doing nothing. I think in the past I was a bit more immune to that, but especially after playing with Windows on ARM laptops, I'm starting to notice fan noise a bit more for using laptops that can run a lot cooler and a lot quieter. Lastly, I reached out to the folks at AceMagic about repairs. It's unique hardware, and if it takes a bad drop, what do you do? I don't think there's anything here so proprietary that a good repair shop couldn't take a crack at a repair. But unfortunately, all I got back from AceMagic was standard PR boilerplate of, you have any issues, please contact us and email our technical support, etc., blah, blah. Boutique gear is really fun to play with. It's really fun to use, but you have to know support will not be as easy as taking an HP down to your local Best Buy. So, as we're breaking all of this down, it's a fun system. It's a fun hardware experiment, and there's a specific kind of multitasker user I think would really enjoy this. We have to know this is not a broad consumer product. Like I said at the top of this video, if you take out a laptop and immediately set up a portable monitor next to it, this could rock your socks. Now, it's never really instructive to consider these machines at the full MSRP on the website, where at the time I shot this, AceMagic had the X1 on a $500 sale. We'll probably see that price fluctuate over the life of the X1, but it's a tougher call as we get closer to that MSRP. There's a novelty here, for sure, but that novelty wears thinner as the price climbs higher, especially if you buy it above the cost of a good portable monitor and a similarly powerful regular single screen laptop. More though, I just hope this is a trend for the brand, a trend of AceMagic taking their products more upscale. The nicer packaging, the nicer build materials, making software support and drivers easier to find on the AceMagic site, all All of these are positive progress, especially getting away from some of those decisions that flagged as malware or made us concerned about the security of their offerings. I still feel consumers should give these products a malware scan before setting them up and living in them, but this was an encouraging step towards making a broader recommendation for the label again. It's just kind of fun. It's a little wacky, it's a little weird, and it works for a specific flavor of productivity. So I'll leave some links down below if you'd like more information on the X1. And as I test new systems out and new phones and tablets and mini PCs, the first folks who get to see my coverage are my awesome patrons. Now, I appreciate everyone who supports their favorite YouTube channels. If you're out there sharing content on social media, that helps us with algorithms. But if you have the means, I hope you'll consider joining the crew at patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. A really fun group of geeks. They're literally helping us keep the lights on here in the Gadget Lab. A huge thank you from the bottom of my heart. Once again, patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet at SomeGadgetGuy. Basically everywhere, but these days I'm spending a bit more time on the Mastodons, a lot less so on the Facebooks and the Instagrams, and definitely not on the Twitters. And I will catch you all on the next review.